Life doesn't just hurt you, it humiliates you. It breaks your heart, steals your plans, rips your identity apart, and leaves you standing in silence with no one to blame but the wind. No warning, no fairness, no reset button. And in that moment, when everything inside you wants to scream, collapse, or disappear, what saves you will not be luck. It will be your mind, not the mind that thinks, but the one you've trained. You don't rise when life breaks you by chance. You rise because your inner core was forged before the breaking. That's what Stoic philosophy is for, not when life is easy, but when it tears through everything you thought you could count on. When someone leaves, when failure hits, when you're staring at a version of yourself you don't recognize anymore. That's when most people fall apart, because they've only trained for success, never for loss. Only for praise, never for silence. This video isn't here to comfort you. It's here to rebuild you, piece by piece, from the inside. Not through cliches, but through hard, clear, brutal mental training. The kind that doesn't make you feel better instantly, but makes you unbreakable long-term. You're watching Victory Stoic, where resilience isn't a quote, it's a skill. So like this video if you're ready to stop waiting to be rescued. Subscribe to the channel if you're done reacting and ready to rebuild. And in the comments, leave your command for this season. Something like, "My pain will not define me," or "I rise with clarity, not noise." Or share the moment life broke you and what you're building now. Because you don't train the mind after the collapse. You train it to be the one thing still standing when everything else is gone. Number 1, don't ask why me, ask what now. When your life collapses, your first instinct will be to look for a reason. To ask the universe, the gods, your ex, your boss, your past, why me, why this, why now? It feels like survival, like if you could just find the source of the pain, you could stop it. But all it really does is trap you in a loop where you relive the injury, justify your anger, and wait for answers that will never come. Because here's the truth, the question why me is the beginning of victimhood. It sounds honest, but it's not power, it's paralysis. The Stoics never wasted time on it. Epictetus, once a slave, later a philosopher, said, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well." He didn't say that to sound deep. He said it because he understood something most people spend their whole lives avoiding. You don't get to choose what breaks you. You only choose what you build after. Asking why me assumes something went wrong with the universe. But often, pain is not personal. It's structural. It's part of living, part of risk, part of choosing to care, to try, to show up. Asking what now moves you forward. It doesn't demand answers, it demands action. It shifts your identity from the person something happened to the person who responds to what happened. Take Matt, 42, from Minneapolis. He lost his job during a merger. No warning, no severance, just gone. He spent the first month spiraling. Why me? I gave that company everything. He drank more, exercised less, stopped talking to friends. Then one night, in a journal, he wrote 3 words. "What now, Matt?" That was the pivot. He made a list of 10 things he could control. He started waking up at 6 a.m. again, sent out 2 resumes per day, called an old mentor. 2 months later, he didn't just have a new job, he had rebuilt his sense of identity. Not because life was fair, but because he stopped waiting for it to be. This mindset shift sounds small, but it's massive. It flips the switch between helplessness and leadership. Because let's be honest, life doesn't stop for your questions. It keeps moving. So you either move with it or get buried under the weight of your own expectations. Psychologically, this matters. Trauma researchers talk about the locus of control, whether a person sees themselves as in charge of their life or at the mercy of external forces. People with an internal locus of control recover faster from setbacks. They're not necessarily stronger, they've just trained themselves to ask better questions. And what now is one of the strongest. So how do you use it? Start with this habit. Every time something hits you hard, set a timer for 10 minutes. Vent. Complain. Write why me if you need to. But when the timer ends, close that chapter. Then open a blank page. Write one question, what now? And under that, write anything you can do next. Not to fix everything, just to start moving again. One email, one conversation, one gym session, one decision. Over time, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as the one who lost everything and start becoming the one who did something about it. That shift is invisible at first, but it compounds. Every choice you make from what now is a brick, and eventually, those bricks become a new foundation, stronger than what was there before. Because the truth is, life will break you. It will. That's not pessimism, that's fact. But strength isn't about avoiding that break, it's about not wasting it. The Stoics didn't avoid pain, they extracted clarity from it. And the first step is to stop negotiating with the past and start commanding the present. So when the next loss hits, and it will, you don't beg the sky for answers. You don't beg life to go easier, you pause, you breathe, and you say out loud, I'm not here to understand this, I'm here to respond to it. That's not cold, that's discipline. That's not denial, that's direction. And if you practice it, truly live it, you'll find something strange happening. The pain won't disappear, but it won't own you, because now, it's not your identity. It's just your beginning. Number 2, acknowledge that you're in pain, but refuse to let the pain take the wheel. The wound is real. Denying it won't make it disappear. Pretending you're fine doesn't build strength, it builds pressure. What breaks people is not pain itself, it's the refusal to face it clearly. But what traps them is something else. Once they do feel it, they let it define everything. They become the pain, speak from it, decide from it, live inside it. That's not healing, that's self-erasure. The Stoics had no interest in pretending they were above suffering. They bled. They broke. But they understood the difference between being in pain and becoming the pain. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's not just philosophical, it's neurological. The brain registers physical and emotional pain similarly. But when your mind grabs hold of that pain, labels it, builds an identity around it, that's when it starts running your life. Here's the mistake most people make. They think strength means suppressing it. They say, I'm fine, with clenched jaws, post healing vibes while scrolling for distractions, and call it resilience. But Stoic strength doesn't deny pain, it examines it, observes it, walks around it slowly like a soldier surveying the enemy. Calm, strategic, in command. Think of pain like a storm hitting your city. You don't deny the storm, you close your windows, you stay inside, you light candles, but you don't become the storm. You don't let it tell you who to be, what to say, how to treat people. You let it pass, and you remain. This was the shift for Olivia, 36, from Atlanta. After losing her partner unexpectedly, she told herself for months, I have to be strong. That meant pushing through meetings, fake smiling at family dinners, never crying in front of anyone. On the surface, she was holding it together. Inside, she was fractured. Her therapist gave her one assignment. Talk to the pain like it's not you. Write to it. Observe it. Say, I see you, I know why you're here, but you don't get to speak for me. That act of separating herself from her pain didn't reduce it overnight, but it gave her back control. She started making decisions again, not just reactions. That's when real strength returned. Here's how you can do the same. Step 1. Name what you're feeling without becoming it. Instead of saying, I'm broken, say, I feel broken right now. Instead of, I'm depressed, say, I'm experiencing depression. This tiny shift stops your emotions from hijacking your identity. Step 2. Give your pain space, but on your terms. Set a timer for 15 minutes. During that time, let yourself feel everything fully. Cry, write, punch a pillow, whatever. But when the timer ends, so does the free pass. That's the boundary between processing and drowning. Step 3. Anchor into something neutral after pain shows up. Go for a walk. Make your bed. Drink water. Text someone kind. You're not fixing yourself. You're reminding your nervous system that you exist outside the emotion. And here's the most powerful reframe. You are not the story your pain is telling. Pain will tell you no one understands, that you're weak, that it will always be this way, that you ruined everything, that there's no way back. These are not truths. These are temporary perceptions shaped by suffering. You don't have to fight them, but you also don't have to obey them. Seneca wrote, No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. This moment, your pain, is your proving ground, not to the world, to yourself. You don't prove strength by how quickly you get over it. You prove it by how precisely you carry it without letting it blur your vision. Pain is data, but it is not a directive. Pain is a signal. but it is not your script. So let it be there. Let it whisper, let it burn. But keep your hands on the wheel, keep showing up, keep acting on values, not mood. That's what makes you dangerous. Not that you don't feel, but that you feel fully and still lead yourself. The world breaks everyone eventually. Some stay broken, some get hard. But the rare few, the ones who train like Stoics, they stay open but never out of control. They let the storm hit, but they never let it drive. Number 3, stay disciplined even when your mind wants to collapse. When everything inside you is falling apart, discipline is the first thing you'll want to let go. The mind screams, "What's the point?" You wake up and stare at the ceiling, your body heavy, your heart silent. Your routines feel absurd. Your workouts feel meaningless. Even showering feels like effort without reward. But this is where most people lose the fight. Not because they're weak, but because they confuse survival with surrender. And surrender always begins when you stop doing the small daily things that kept your mind intact before the storm. The Stoics didn't preach discipline as a performance. They treated it like armor. Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When your world collapses, you don't need motivation. You need self-mastery. Because the truth is, you won't feel like doing any of it. Not journaling, not moving, not cooking, not sleeping on time. But those small basic acts of structure are the scaffolding that hold your mental house up while the storm rips through the roof. Discipline doesn't heal the wound. It keeps you steady while the wound bleeds. And steadiness, over time, becomes healing. Think of discipline in grief like a lighthouse. You don't light it for brightness. You light it so you don't drift. Your body and mind are lost at sea, but if you can still see the light of structure, you won't completely disappear. This was the shift for Brian, 39, from Boston. After his younger brother died in a car accident, Brian couldn't function. He stopped exercising, stopped cooking, ate whatever was in reach, started drinking nightly just to get to sleep. He told his therapist, "I just want the pain to go away." The therapist replied, "The pain won't go anywhere for a while, but if you lose your structure, it'll start owning your identity." That hit him. So he didn't aim for perfection. He started small, same wake-up time every day. No phone for the first hour, 10 push-ups, walk around the block, eggs and water before coffee, no alcohol before sundown. It wasn't dramatic, but after 2 weeks he felt something shift. Not his grief, but his grip. He wasn't spiraling anymore. He was holding a line. Here's the reality. Your emotions don't care about your future. Your discipline does. When you're broken, you don't need intensity. You need repetition. You need the most basic version of yourself to still function. That means eat something with real nutrients every day, even when you're numb. Move your body in any way possible. Walk, stretch, push up, carry. Wake up and go to sleep at the same time, even if you don't sleep well. Keep your space clean, even if it's just making your bed and doing one dish. Get outside. Breathe air that hasn't passed through a screen. Don't replace pain with stimulation. No binge eating, binge scrolling, binge drinking. Stoicism never said, "Don't feel." It said, "Don't let what you feel dismantle what you've built." Marcus Aurelius woke up during war, plague, and betrayal, and still wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." He didn't rise because it felt good. He rose because it was his duty to himself. And sometimes, that's the only reason left. Discipline is how you keep your word to the future version of you, the one that will come out of this if you protect their foundation now. Every routine you keep is a message to your subconscious. We are not done yet. It's like patching a leaking boat. The rain keeps falling, the waves keep smashing, but you still bail the water out. Not because it will make the storm stop, but because you refuse to sink on your own watch. So ask yourself, what are my non-negotiables? Not my goals, not my ambitions. My non-negotiables. 3 things I will do daily, no matter how I feel, because my identity depends on them. If you don't have them, build them. Simple, repeatable, automatic, especially when you feel like giving up. That's the test. That's the whole game. Can you stay loyal to the structure when your emotions tell you nothing matters? Because the mind will lie. The storm will scream. But your routines, the body you move, the food you choose, the hour you sleep, these are anchors. They don't fix you. They keep you from losing what's left. And later, maybe days, maybe weeks, you'll wake up one morning, still grieving, still healing, but standing. Not curled on the floor, not hiding from yourself, just standing. And you'll know, I didn't let the collapse bury me. That's Stoic discipline. Quiet, brutal, unshakable. Not about looking strong. Just about not falling to pieces when everything inside you says it would be easier. Number 4. Master the art of silence. Never explain yourself to those who distort your words. Not every fight deserves your side of the story. Not every question deserves an answer. Not every wound needs to be displayed for proof. There comes a point in your growth where you realize explaining yourself to the wrong people isn't clarity, it's leakage. It drains your focus, your dignity, your power, and it always ends the same way. You're exhausted, they're unchanged, and now they know exactly how to wound you deeper. The Stoics understood the strength of silence better than most. Musonius Rufus, the lesser quoted but deeply pragmatic Stoic teacher, said, "To speak when it brings no benefit is foolish. To remain silent when it brings peace is wisdom." Most people think silence means passivity, but silence, when chosen consciously, is a weapon sharpened by restraint. It's not withdrawal, it's precision. Let me tell you about Ava, 40, from New Orleans. Recently divorced after a decade-long marriage that quietly eroded her identity, Ava found herself constantly trying to explain to friends, family, and even her ex why she had finally left. Every time she tried to defend her decision, she ended up drained and doubting. People questioned her motives. Some implied she'd given up too soon. Her ex played the victim in public while privately shifting blame. At one point, a relative said to her, "You owe him closure." That night, Ava finally stopped replying. She realized no one was asking out of care. They were asking to shape a narrative they already wanted to believe. From that moment on, she adopted a rule. If your question isn't rooted in love, it doesn't deserve my breath. She stopped explaining, and for the first time, she started healing. Here's the lesson. Explanation is energy, and energy is your currency when life breaks you. Every word you offer someone who won't hear it is a withdrawal from your own recovery. Every clarification you give to someone who's only listening to attack is like shouting through water. You waste your voice and drown trying. You must learn to identify the difference between a genuine listener and an emotional predator. One seeks understanding, the other seeks ammunition. And if you can't tell the difference, you'll spend your most vulnerable months handing weapons to the people least worthy of them. Think of your pain like a sacred fire. It burns hot. It's sensitive. It needs protection. If you expose it too soon to the wrong hands, they'll either mock the heat or use it to warm themselves without ever helping you rebuild. But if you guard it, tend it quietly, only letting in those who bring wood, not gasoline, that fire will forge something new. Practical discipline. 1. Delay your response by 24 hours when provoked. If someone sends a message that twists your truth, don't defend. Wait. Read it again the next day. If it still feels wrong to respond, it was never your job to fix their view. 2. Use one-line boundaries. I'm not explaining this again. That's not up for discussion. You can believe what you want. I'm choosing peace. These aren't walls. They're gates with locks. You decide who gets the key. 3. Journal the explanations you wish you could say and burn them. That's your outlet, not your inbox. Let the fire take it, not the people who wouldn't understand it anyway. 4. Choose a silence symbol. Something simple, like touching your ring finger to your thumb, that reminds you, I don't owe them a single syllable. Use it before you speak, before you type, before you crack open the vault for someone who's only going to rearrange the truth. And understand this, silence is not about avoidance, it's about sovereignty. It's you saying, I don't need you to validate my healing to make it real. It's you walking away from the court you were never going to win in. The deeper reason we explain is because we still want connection. We want to be seen, even by those who hurt us. But Stoicism teaches something brutal and liberating. You don't need to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. Your job is not to make your pain palatable. Your job is to protect your direction, even if the road is walked alone. So let them ask, let them whisper, let them twist the story, let them write their version. Your job isn't to correct them. Your job is to rise so far past their noise that your silence becomes the only answer they remember. Because one day, They'll realize your absence spoke more truth than your arguments ever did. And when they do, you'll be too far ahead to care. That's not cruelty. That's evolution. You don't need a perfect exit speech. You don't need to make them see. You just need to stop casting your truth into rooms built for echo, not understanding. Save your voice. Save your energy. Save your rebuilding for those who bring tools, not doubt. That's not giving up. That's mastery of restraint. That's the Stoic path. Not loud, but unforgettable. Number 5. Don't let temporary emotions destroy long-term systems. When you're broken, emotionally wrecked, sleepless, staring at the ceiling in a quiet apartment that used to be filled with someone's voice, everything in you will scream to stop, to quit the gym, to abandon journaling, to skip the meditation. Because what's the point now? The life you built was with someone else, and now they're gone. The structure feels hollow. The discipline feels fake. But here's the brutal truth. If you stop the system when the storm hits, you guarantee collapse. What used to be your foundation becomes your ruin. You don't rebuild by healing first and then restarting your life. You rebuild through consistency, by refusing to let your emotional state erase the very routines that gave your mind strength before it was shattered. The Stoics lived through war, exile, betrayal, death of children and partners. They didn't write philosophy from peace, they wrote it from ruins. Cleanthes, successor to Zeno, famously continued his physical labor every day, even after public disgrace. He believed that if you abandon form in the face of chaos, you abandon yourself. Here's the principle. When everything inside you wants to collapse, your systems are your defiance. Let me tell you about Daniel, 45, from Ohio. Father of 2, recently divorced after 14 years of marriage. His wife left quietly but decisively. No dramatic fights, just papers on the table and silence in the kitchen. The next morning, Daniel didn't go to the gym. First time in 3 years. The next week, he didn't write in his journal. The week after that, he stopped cooking. Takeout every night, whiskey before sleep. By month 2, his sleep was shot, his mind foggy, and his body aching. He didn't feel grief anymore. He felt numb. Then one night, he opened his old notebook. Last line, "Discipline is my anchor when I'm lost." He stared at it for 5 minutes. The next morning, he woke up, didn't wait for motivation, and went to the gym. Lifted lighter than usual, didn't talk to anyone. Came home, no music, no distractions, just sweat and silence. But something inside had moved. That evening, he cooked his own meal. Next day, he journaled 1 page, not about her, just about himself. He wasn't healed, but he wasn't unraveling anymore. His systems were back, and so was he. This is the rule. Structure is not a reward for feeling good. Structure is the muscle that keeps you from falling apart. When you're in pain, your brain lies. It says, skip it today. You deserve rest. This doesn't matter anymore. Start again when you feel better. But better never comes unless you act like the person who's moving forward, even if you don't believe it yet. So how do you do it? 1. Shrink the routine, but never break it. Can't do an hour workout? Do 15 minutes. Can't journal a page? Write 1 sentence. I showed up today? Keep the signal to your subconscious, we're still in motion. 2. Create anchor habits. 3 non-negotiables, no matter what. Move your body, hydrate, write something. It doesn't have to be pretty, it has to be present. 3. Track consistency, not intensity. This isn't the time to beat personal bests. This is survival mode. The win is showing up at all. 4. Make your space reflect order, even when your heart feels like chaos. Clean 1 counter, make the bed, wash a dish. External structure helps internal orientation. The Stoic metaphor is clear. Don't abandon your ship when the waves rise. Tighten the ropes, adjust the sails, and hold your course. Even if water pours in, even if the stars are gone, you don't stop sailing. You keep your hands on the wheel. Marcus Aurelius, during a war that took his wife and most of his children, still wrote every morning, still rose with the army, still governed. Not because he wasn't broken, but because he knew to stop the system is to surrender to the abyss. You don't get to choose what leaves you, but you do choose what stays. Let your systems be what stays. One day, the grief will lift, the silence will stop hurting, the memories will soften, and when they do, you'll be able to say, I didn't abandon myself when they abandoned me. That's a rare kind of pride, the kind no one can give you because you earned it in the dark. So even if your heart is dust today, you still go to the gym, you still write, You still sit in silence with your back straight and your jaw soft, not because it fixes anything right away, but because it tells your soul, I'm still here. And that, more than anything, is the first real step toward being whole again. Number 6, don't search for someone to understand you when you're at your weakest. Stand up first. Pain creates craving, not just for comfort, but for witness. For someone who says, I get it, I see you, I know exactly what you're going through. When your heart is cracked open, when you've just been left, betrayed, or broken, your instincts will scream to fill the space with something. A new connection, a new job, a new narrative. Anything to avoid sitting in the stillness of your own collapse. But here's the hard truth. If you go looking for rescue while you're still bleeding, you don't find healing. You find codependency, distraction, or illusion. You trade your pain for a temporary high, and when it wears off, you're worse off, because now you're not just hurt, you're entangled. The Stoics never positioned empathy as a need. They treated it as a gift. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with himself," not because he rejects connection, but because he refuses to need validation from others to begin his recovery. Strength in the Stoic frame isn't isolation, it's sovereignty. And when you're in your lowest state, sovereignty is your only defense against compounding wounds. Think of emotional weakness like a deep fog after a shipwreck. You're cold, confused, and drifting. And the most dangerous moment is not the storm. It's the second you reach for the first thing that floats by. It might be someone else who's also drowning. It might be a job offer that's more escape than purpose. It might be a relationship based on trauma bonding, not true compatibility. That's how people end up trapped in rebound cycles, romantic or professional, because they make decisions from desperation, not direction. Let's make this concrete. Cassandra, 32, from Denver, went through a brutal breakup that ended a 7-year relationship. She immediately downloaded dating apps. Not because she was ready, but because the silence felt unbearable. Within 2 weeks, she'd matched with someone who seemed charming, understanding, emotionally present. Within 2 months, she'd moved in. And within 6 months, she realized she'd recreated the same emotional patterns she had just left, this time with more intensity and less foundation. When she finally left again, her therapist told her, "You don't need to be understood to start over. You need to be responsible for your own peace." That sentence cracked something open. Cassandra deleted every app, stayed single for a full year, and used that time to build rituals, not relationships. She learned to journal when lonely, to walk instead of text, to meditate through longing instead of numbing it. And when she finally re-entered the world, she wasn't hoping to be seen, she was already whole. Anyone who saw her now didn't complete her. They witnessed her. Here's how you train that. 1. Set a no-decision window after major emotional collapse. At least 30 days. No new relationships, jobs, or drastic changes. Just recovery mode, clarity mode. 2. Build anchor rituals that don't involve other people. That could be journaling before bed, cold showers at sunrise, 10-minute walks with no phone. Anchor your identity to actions, not reactions. 3. Separate being seen from being saved. Write a letter to yourself as if you were your own best friend. Acknowledge your pain, validate it, then ask, now what do I need to do with it? 4. Define connection as a mirror, not a crutch. Anyone who truly sees you will reflect your strength back, not feed your fragility. The metaphor here is simple. You're a house after an earthquake. The walls are cracked. The foundation is shaken. The worst thing you can do is throw a big party before rebuilding. You might get company, but the roof could collapse mid-conversation. Rebuild first, then open the door. Stoicism isn't anti-connection. It's anti-dependence. It teaches you to be the one who holds your own structure, so that when others come, they add, not rescue. When you're weak, don't go looking for mirrors. Go looking for your spine. Because if someone says they understand you while you haven't understood yourself, their version of you might end up becoming your prison. You can crave company and still not compromise your clarity. You can feel lonely and still choose solitude over self-abandonment. This is real strength. To sit in your apartment, your room, your own skin, unloved, unseen, and still choosing not to chase ghosts. One day, connection will return. The right one, or maybe several. But by then, you won't be offering your wounds, you'll be offering your presence. And you'll know it wasn't the empathy that healed you. It was your choice to rise without waiting to be held. Because empathy is beautiful, but it's not oxygen. And when life breaks you, the first hand you must take is your own. Number 7. Accept that some things will never have an answer, and you don't need one to live. You sit with your back against the wall, staring at your ceiling at 2:37 a.m., asking yourself the same questions for the 43rd night in a row. Why did they leave? Was it my fault? Were they lying the whole time? Did I miss something? Was I not enough? Your mind loops like a broken film reel, searching for the frame that explains everything. But here's the harsh, liberating truth. You might never get the answer, and you don't need it to keep going. There's a kind of mental suffering that doesn't come from the event itself, but from the interrogation that follows. A betrayal stabs once, but the search for why cuts you 1,000 more times. The pain doesn't stay because they left. It stays because you keep believing closure is a sentence you haven't heard yet. The Stoics knew better. Epictetus said, "You are not disturbed by what happens, but by your opinion about what happens." And when you demand an explanation that may never come, you trap yourself in an emotional courtroom. Judge, jury, and executioner all in one. The trial never ends and the defendant never shows up. Think of it like this. Your life is a ship, and the people who hurt you are storms. Some storms are sudden, some slow and cruel. But once they pass, you're left staring at the waves asking, why did that cloud form like that? Why did the lightning strike me? Meanwhile, your boat is drifting further from shore. Not because of the storm, but because you've stopped sailing. Let me tell you about Eric, 38, from Arizona. His best friend of 15 years suddenly ghosted him. No explanation, no fallout, just silence. At first, he assumed something terrible happened. Then he found out that friend had started hanging out with a new group, had quietly removed him from plans, and was telling others Eric was too intense. Eric was devastated, not by the loss, but by the confusion. For a year, he replayed every text, every conversation, wondering where it went wrong. Therapy helped, but nothing brought peace until one day his therapist asked, "What if there is no clean answer? What if they just chose the path of least honesty?" Eric paused, then cried. Not from weakness, but from the quiet relief of releasing the search. That's the pivot. You stop asking questions not because they don't matter, but because they've stolen enough of your life already. Here's the discipline. 1. Write down every question that haunts you, then write beside each one. Answer optional. Remind yourself that curiosity is valid, but closure is a luxury, not a right. 2. Replace "why did this happen" with "what do I choose next?" The brain is wired to seek patterns and causality. Override it with direction. 3. Practice non-closure closure. Say aloud, "I may never know. I release the need to know. I am not waiting to be whole." Repeat it when the loop starts. 4. Catch the spiral. When your mind begins rehashing conversations, imagine scenarios, or maybe if I had stories, interrupt it with breath. Literally pause, breathe in deeply, and shift your body posture. Don't let reflection become obsession. Some answers never come. Some people won't explain. Some truths are fragmented or buried in their own shame or simply absent. That doesn't make your experience invalid. It doesn't make you foolish. It just makes you human in a world without guarantees. The longer you hunt for a perfect reason, the more power you give the past. But the moment you say, "I don't need the full story to write my next chapter," you return that power to your hands. Seneca said, "If you know not to which port you sail, no wind is favorable." If your identity is tethered to questions with no answers, you're not sailing, you're circling. And the sea doesn't wait. So what do? You live without the why. You build without the clarity. You rise without the apology. You stop waiting for people to come back and explain the pain they caused. Most won't. Some can't. Others never knew what they did. But you? You can still choose to breathe deeper, to walk straighter, to carry yourself with the quiet dignity of someone who rebuilt themselves without a manual. That's not delusion, that's power. You will still wonder some nights. That's okay. But you don't let the wondering derail the work. Because your future doesn't need that answer. It needs your decision. Your choice to keep going even when the story didn't end cleanly. Your decision to stop playing detective and start being the architect of what comes next. And one day, when peace comes, quietly, Not because you found the reason, but because you no longer needed it. You'll understand what the Stoics meant. Freedom isn't found in what you know. It's found in what no longer controls you. Number 8. Rewrite your definition of who I am, without tying it to who left or what failed. When life collapses, your first instinct isn't just grief. It's identity crisis. You don't just lose a person, a job, or a dream. You lose the version of yourself that was wrapped around them. And suddenly, you're left asking, if I'm not their partner, their support system, their favorite, then who the hell am I? That question haunts, and if you're not careful, you'll build your entire future trying to answer it in reaction to the loss, rather than from clarity. The Stoics understood that external roles are temporary. Epictetus taught, you are a distinct soul, carrying reason and choice. Everything else, job, status, relationships, is just clothing. But most of us confuse the clothing for the person. And when someone rips that garment off, when a breakup, divorce, or failure strips your title, role, or routine, you stand there feeling naked, undefined, exposed. This is where most people get lost. They try to patch their identity with something immediate, a new partner, a new label, a new obsession. But what they really need is to rebuild their core definition, not based on roles, but on character. Let me tell you about Marcus, 44, from Sacramento. For 12 years, he built his world around his startup. It wasn't just his company, it was him. Every waking hour, every relationship, every conversation was rooted in the founder identity. When it collapsed in year 13, he didn't just lose money, he lost his reflection. For weeks, he said things like, I don't know who I am anymore. A friend challenged him, was your name ever CEO on your birth certificate? That was the first moment Marcus realized he'd never written his identity apart from his title. He went home that night, sat in silence, and wrote 10 sentences that had nothing to do with business. Things like, I keep my word. I show up when it's hard. I learn quickly and recover faster. That list became the new foundation, not for a career, but for character. This is the work, separating your who from your what. You are not who loved you. You are not what you built. You are not what you lost. You are what you consistently choose to embody, regardless of applause or attachment. How do you practice this? 1. Strip away every title. Write your name at the top of a blank page, then remove every role you've been attached to: boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, manager, parent, caretaker. Now answer, what's left? That answer is where your rebuilding starts. 2. List identity traits, not identity roles. For example, I'm someone who finishes what I start. I lead with clarity. I honor my word. These are values, not situations. Situations shift. Values anchor. 3. Refuse to use past tense when speaking of yourself. Not, I used to be. Say, I'm in the middle of becoming. Language shapes reality. Choose yours with precision. 4. Write your new code, like a mission statement but raw. No fluff. Just one page that answers, who am I when everything falls away? Revisit it weekly. Here's the metaphor. Your identity is a house. When the people leave, when the job moves out, when the titles expire, that's just furniture. The walls are still there. The foundation still holds. You don't rebuild the house by chasing down the furniture. You rebuild by checking the structure, laying new floors, painting new colors. It's slower, quieter, but real. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but in his private journals, he never once referred to himself as emperor. He reminded himself only of this. I am a man. I can think, I can choose, I can endure. No crowns, no followers, just function and character. That's Stoic identity. And yes, it's lonely at first. There's no crowd cheering for you as you redefine yourself in silence. But this is the gift hidden in loss. You finally get to decide who you are without anyone else's hands shaping you. You get to build a version of you that doesn't need applause to be true. So stop saying, I don't know who I am now. Start saying, I'm deciding who I will be next. Not as a reaction to pain, but as a response to freedom. Because when everything is gone and there's nothing left to lean on, that's not emptiness. That's blank space. And if you're brave enough to write something new, you'll come back not as a version of your past, but as someone the past never even imagined. Conclusion. When life throws you to the ground, don't beg for a hand to lift you. That kind of rescue feels good in the moment, but if someone else picks you up, someone else can knock you back down. Train your mind to be the one thing that doesn't collapse when everything else does. That's not just survival. That's strength no one can take from you. The Stoics didn't become unshakable by accident. They trained daily, deliberately, sometimes painfully, so that when life broke them, it didn't define them. They practiced being calm in chaos, focused in failure, resilient in rejection. They didn't ask for easier lives. They demanded stronger minds. So should you. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're not here for comfort. You're here for truth. And the truth is, the world will not stop testing you. People will leave. Dreams will fail. Plans will dissolve. But what remains is the discipline you've built inside yourself. The habits you protect when motivation dies. The thoughts you choose when the pain screams louder than logic. That's what determines who you become. You don't need to rebuild your life overnight. You just need to keep your hands on the wheel one more day. Wake up, move your body, speak with clarity. Choose action over spiraling. Choose stillness over panic. Choose discipline over collapse. Not perfectly, just relentlessly. And one day you'll look back at this version of yourself, the one sitting in the dark, bruised, confused, angry, aching, and you'll thank them. Because they didn't quit. They didn't beg. They didn't drown. They rebuilt, silently, ruthlessly, stoically. If this video helped you take even one mental step forward, like it, share it, and subscribe to Victory Stoic. This channel is here for warriors, not wanderers. Leave a comment below with your command for yourself. Something like, I rise from my lowest point. I'm not waiting for rescue. My strength is trained, not given. Or share your story, the moment life tried to break you, and how you're rebuilding now. Thank you for listening, for fighting, and for choosing the path of power over pity. This is Victory Stoic, and you are becoming unshakable.